Humankind has just released a new Ibn Battuta update with tons of balance changes, so let's cut to the chase and get straight to it. So wouldn't you know it, the one time I am not able to upload or respond to anything is the day the devs decide to release a big game-changing update, and this is quite game-changing as this is the first balance patch in months, I think like 4 or 5 months, that the devs have released, and it is a very significant and substantial balance patch to say. A lot of changes to requested cultures like the Phoenicians, like the Ming, like the Americans, to make them more potent, and also some balance changes to kind of bring down some of the more powerful cultures like the Mongols. So great to see some of that going forward. I want to talk about some of the most significant cultures that have been impacted by these changes. I'm not going to go over every single culture, but I want to highlight the big ones and what I think of them. So a quick note here, I am a bit concerned about this vassalization change because, at least in my experience, the AI, if they get a continent to themselves, and this is why I limit my games to Pangea only with one big continent, is that when they get a continent to themselves or some kind of island with other AI, they vassalize them immediately, and the strongest AI comes out on top by either annexing or vassalizing all of the AI on their little island, which allows them to snowball, and it makes them very, very hard to wager war against, as they have that beachhead, and then it makes them very, very susceptible to famed snowballing, which can be a big problem later on in the game. So I am by no means a Phoenician player, but I am just so overjoyed to see that they are getting some love this patch. The changes they are receiving aren't that monumental, but at least they're going to have a more unique gameplay style. They already had some tricks up their sleeves with early naval combat and those shenanigans, and then the Hittites were also competing for the worst ancient era slot, so they have also received some much needed changes, and I'm really just glad to see they received some love and attention from the developers. So what this means in the grand scheme of things is that the Phoenicians are going to have much better map awareness, being able to now put their units like warriors, archers, and scouts out onto the ocean tiles and explore much faster, possibly even settling smaller islands or larger islands depending on how close they are to the main homeland of the Phoenicians. So that's going to have some interesting gameplay consequences, and I really look forward to seeing how that kind of plays out with player strategies and whatnot. Now, the Hittites essentially just got stat changes. The Assyrians also have the Danu counting as a commons quarter, which helps with stability as they are expansionist and they're grabbing a lot of territories. The Mycenaeans had their emblematic quarter nerfed. The industry bonus was quite powerful because they could get out tons and tons of units early into the game, and as a militarist, they just were a non-stop war machine. And then the Olmecs, to kind of round off the ancient era, now get +3 influence per territory. Wanted to see a little bit more with their colossal heads. I think it's a unique idea surrounding your district that is not necessarily purely restricted to farmer quarters bonuses and kind of buffing that further. So I was hoping to see some more gameplay mechanics and situations revolving around that with some more buffs, but unfortunately that doesn't seem to be the case. Now, the Romans and the Goths both received some very substantial changes. I want to cover the Goths. The Romans, they already were receiving some buffs, but the Goths have not been touched so far in any of the previous patches to my knowledge. And now their changes really focus around ransacking and maintaining a lead while keeping your opponents alive, unlike most of the other militarist civs. So these bonuses, especially the science bonus, will ensure that you can stay up to tech with your competitors, and this really is a good cultural pick, kind of as a defensive measure, ironically, because they're a militarist. When you are facing AI that are kind of snowballing, and you want to make sure you maintain a lead over them by killing them slowly, but not necessarily raising their cities entirely, and kind of keeping them alive maybe as weaker vassals and or opponents that you occasionally raid and ransack, which is a really cool concept that doesn't involve completely scorching your allies and just burning their cities to the ground. The Mongols also received a big change in 2 ways. I think the Huns are also affected by this, but basically nomadic cultures no longer receive food from killing units. They actually receive food similarly to how the Bantu receive food, and that is through curiosities, kind of similar to the scientific curiosities that other empires collect. So a lot harder to snowball as them and get a massive horde going. And then the militarist affinity has also kind of been rebalanced to favor more casual players and a slower play style. The Garamantes are now a lot more situational, as their emblematic quarter must be placed next to sterile terrain and rocky fields, but those tiles also have further boosted effects, so now they are a little bit more rewarding, if not more circumstantial in terms of their playstyle. The Ming had a bit of a change up, so now they are generating a little bit more influence, as they used to be +1 influence on territory, now it's +10 influence per enacted civic, so they are going to be going up a little bit in the tier list rankings, and they also now have a little bit of a change with their emblematic quarter, now counting as a commons quarter. A new change coming to the Ethiopians is that their emblematic quarter now provides +10 science, and it counts as a commons quarter. There's also been a bug resolved that would not flag the emblematic quarter as a garrison, so it receives those bonuses as well. So the French received a big steaming nerf because their emblematic quarter lost collective minds, which allowed them to effectively gain tons and tons of science, and instead it provides +2 science per trade route. A little bit underwhelming, but maybe you can turn the tides if you played as a merchant previously. Our friends, the Americans, received a huge change to their emblematic quarter. It plays completely differently compared to how it played in the previous patch. Now it counts as a market quarter, it counts as a commons quarter, and it also gains gold synergy with garrisons, and it no longer reduces stability, so it's going to be a lot more powerful. Whether this will actually make the Americans stand out, I'm not too sure, but it is a step in the right direction. Finally, there have been some changes to emblematic quarters and religious districts, in that emblematic quarters, at least many more of them, now count as religious districts, and to further buff this, these religious districts or emblematic quarters both receive buffs to yield, such as food, industry, science, influence, or money, or all of the above in this case if you advance your religion enough, which can be fairly impactful if you decide to go down the religion route. So this really makes things all the more rewarding if you decide to focus on faith, which is great to kind of develop more nuanced play styles. That's all for this short little video, but if you would like to see the Ibn Battuta update covered in its entirety, let me know. Otherwise, I have some videos talking about the other aspects of the Ibn Battuta update, which you will find linked in the top right-hand corner of the video right now. So thank you again so much for watching. I hope my brief hiatus has not been too impactful on the Humankind ecosystem. I know it hasn't. But thank you guys so much for sticking with me and the channel, and I hope to see you guys in the coming days. All right, love you guys. Peace.